Hello and welcome to another episode of Gripe and Groan. I'm Neve.
And I'm Erin.
And we have to welcome her back because she's back from the dead.
Yes, I resurrected myself especially for this review and this movie.
And that movie is Hacksaw Ridge!
What the hell is your delay, Captain?
We're waiting, sir.
Waiting for what?
Private Doss.
Hacksaw Ridge is the newest film released by Mel Gibson. Released on the 16th of October 2016, it tells the story of Desmond Doss, the first ever conscientious objector to win the Medal of Honor for actions above and beyond the call of duty in World War II.
Desmond Doss was a pacifist soldier, which meant he refused to kill an enemy soldier or carry a weapon into combat because of his beliefs. As a Seventh-day Adventist, he rescued the lives of over 75 wounded soldiers on the battlefield.
The cast for Hacksaw Ridge includes Andrew Garfield, Teresa Palmer, Sam Worthington and Vince Vaughn. The movie has been critically acclaimed and has won a range of awards, including the Academy Award for Best Film Editing and Sound Mixing, and Andrew Garfield himself won many awards for his acting, including the Critics' Choice Award for Best Lead Actor.
The internet loved this movie also, receiving ratings of 8.3 out of 10 from IMDb, 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 71% on Metacritic.
The Guardian said about the movie, Mel Gibson's robust directorial technique brings an undeniable punch to the combat scenes of the Oscar-nominated Second World War drama.
Which means it was brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
So let's get on to our opinion of the movie.
Can we just take a minute to appreciate the fact that we actually like a movie for once?
And have very little to say in a negative aspect towards it.
This is a very rare moment in history and I think we should take a moment to enjoy it.
A moment of silence, please. This movie was awesome!
It really was awesome.
It was such a mixture of feelings and action all packed into one. I mean, when I first heard about it, I wasn't even aware of Desmond Doss. Unfortunately, I say with sin, heavy-headedly. But the movie just completely opened my eyes to it. I mean, the movie had packed, it was war scenes, it had some romance, enough to bear at the very least. It brought you through the adventure and you felt like you were a part of it. I'm not ashamed to admit I started crying. It was just incredible. The few faults that we had with it are just very minor and so brief to brush over. It was just the acting, the scenery, all of it. Even Vince Vaughn, I saw his face and went, ugh. Let's be honest, all we have to mention is Psycho and that's his acting skills. But even he was really good in this movie. It just blew my mind.
One of the main complaints that people had with this movie was that they found the first half quite slow, but personally I don't think me and Neve agree with this, because to get behind a character in a movie you have to see what their life is like, what they started off as a child, how their life went, did they have a hard life, a good life, what are their relationships, who are they going to come home to after this war. So I feel like this first half of this movie was character building and it was very necessary than just jumping straight into the war zone and all of the bloody violence. So a lot of people complained that the first half was quite slow, but I personally disagree. I thought it was quite necessary to get behind the character of Desmond Doss and to know enough about him to want to see him come home alive.
I mean, the first scene, going into this movie, you think you're going to see an angelic man, and because of the true story behind this, you think, good man start to finish. But actually, when you see him as a child, you see him knock his brother out with a brick. So it's interesting to see how he progressed from a normal young lad to someone who refused to take any part in violence on himself. So it's an interesting story that I have to admit I wasn't expecting to be so good. It had a very Saving Private Ryan feel with regards to the war scenes because they held nothing back. It was very gory, I have to admit.
That brings us to the one complaint that there is that we would have. The one complaint that actually not just us, but many people who reviewed the movie on the internet have said is that some of the violence was a bit too exaggerated. There's exaggerating violence for entertainment purposes, and then there's exaggerating violence to a point that's kind of hard to believe. Like the first time a gun goes off in the war zone is when a dead body jumps alive and tries to grab someone, which is clearly a jump scare, a good jump scare at that. But when you're trying to tell a true story, is that really a place for jump scares like horror movies?
There was also some complaints about the way guns would actually affect a human. For example, a man was shot in the back of the head and his head sort of exploded. And we've been told that in real war, it doesn't happen like that. It's more of just a bullet straight through. But other than that, it's a minor thing that's really, it doesn't bother you too much in the overall film.
Even though this is a movie show, I just want to take a minute to talk about the actual life of Desmond Doss, because At the end of the movie, it shows you clips from the documentary that was made about Desmond Doss's life, and you begin to see that scenes from the movie were actually real life things that Doss remembered and recalled in the documentary. Like, for example, there's a scene in the movie where he finds an injured man and his face is covered in blood and dirt, and he wipes the dirt away from his eyes, and the man looks so relieved, and he was like, oh my god, I thought I was blind. And at the end of the movie, you actually see the real life Desmond Doss describing this incident and how it happened, and it's pretty much word for word how they portrayed it in the movie.
So for that, we can at least congratulate the movie on its accuracy. A lot of people would say it was over-exaggerated, but as Desmond Doss's son said, all his life he's had people coming through the door asking if they can make a movie out of his father's life, and he always declined because they just wanted to exaggerate it to a pompous level. But this was the first time he agreed the movie had been done correctly and was accurate to a point.
Something that I will always thank this movie for is bringing Desmond Doss to my actual attention. I think it's very almost sinful that people don't know about what this man has done and what he achieved in his long life. And honestly, I think it should be taught about when you're learning about World War II in schools, because there are people who have particular faiths in life, people who don't want to pick up guns, people who are overly religious, and they feel put down by it. They feel like they can't achieve anything. And I feel like this movie is a very good example and a very good way to show people that no matter what your faith is, no matter what your beliefs are, you still can achieve what other people can.
Overall, this movie was fantastic. Unfortunately, it's not in the cinema anymore, but the second it comes out on DVD, I recommend buying it and watching it and just loving it.
And if you're interested by the idea of what Desmond Doss has done and about his life, please do look him up. Even watch the documentary, because I'm sure it's available online somewhere or even to purchase, because his life is amazing. What he did in the war is amazing. Mm-hmm. I came out of that movie thinking, what a legend.
We always remember people for the bad things they did, and sometimes it's worth remembering the good. For me, this is going to become a favourite movie in my top 10.
And to be a bit cheesy, let's dedicate this wee review to Desmond Doss, because he sadly passed away on March 23rd, 2006.
We'll remember the legend.
Yes, of
so,
course.
If you have any other movie reviews, you don't do the reviews, we do that. If you have any other movies you would like us to review and have a look at, please send in your requests to this usual...
Tweet me at bberrychills94 on Twitter. That is BBERRYCHILLS.
Do you need to spell it? I've been Neve.
I've been Erin.
And go see Hacksaw Ridge.
Do it.
But you can't because it's not in the cinema anymore.
Buy the DVD.
We're lying.